Good evening, listeners. I invite you now to draw closer to the glow of your lamp, pull your blanket a little tighter, and steady your heart. Tonight's story is not one to rush. It must be told slowly, like fog rolling in across a hollow until it presses against your very skin. Our tale is called The Road Where the Fog Knocked. It began as so many ordinary evenings do. The Merriweather family had finished their Sunday supper, the dishes were cleared, the windows glowed with the last embers of daylight, and Father Frank suggested a drive. Just a short one, he told his wife, June, to let the children breathe the cool October air before bed. Penny, age 10, and Teddy, age 8, cheered at the idea. Soon enough, the family automobile purred to life, and off they went, the road stretching before them like a ribbon. For a time, the drive was peaceful. The air smelled of smoke from distant chimneys. Dry leaves tumbled across the pavement in restless spirals. The setting sun painted every fence post gold. They passed farmhouses with lights glowing warmly in their windows, a reminder of the comfort that always waited at journey's end. But then, at a bend in the road, Frank noticed something unusual. A narrow dirt lane broke away to the west, a road he did not remember. This will save us time, he thought. The turn was made, the decision simple as a breath. Yet with that choice, the family crossed an unseen threshold. The trees along the dirt road grew taller and closer, their limbs intertwining like dark arms stretched above. The last of the light faltered, sinking quickly, as though the sun itself feared to linger there. And then came the fog. At first, it was only a faint veil trailing from the ditches, but within minutes it rose thick and heavy, coiling around the wheels, smothering the beams of the headlights, until the world beyond the hood ornament vanished altogether. Still, the Merriweathers pressed on. The road behind had disappeared, and the one ahead was little more than a suggestion. The children grew quiet, their faces pale in the dim glow of the dashboard. June leaned close to her husband and whispered that they ought to turn back. But Frank only tightened his hands on the wheel. "We can't," he murmured. "The way behind us is gone." The woods had fallen utterly silent. No cricket sang, no owl called. Even the wind seemed to have retreated. The only sound was the crunch of tires on dirt, and soon, something else. A knock, soft, deliberate, against the glass. Frank's brow furrowed, but he said nothing. Another knock followed, then another, moving from one side of the car to the other. It was too precise to be branches, too measured to be accident. The children leaned into one another, their breath shallow. The fog pressed closer, muffling even their hearts. And then came the figure. It emerged from the white wall of mist as though carved from it, tall, pale, without form enough to name, yet human enough to chill the blood. Its body glided silently across the road, leaving no mark. For one dreadful moment, it paused. Though it had no eyes, the Merriweathers felt themselves seen, measured, weighed, each beat of their hearts held in its gaze. And then, with a motion too smooth to be earthly, it turned and slipped into the trees, dissolving into the fog that had birthed it. Frank's voice was low, barely a thread. "We keep moving," he said. And so they did, the knocks returning, louder now. They came from behind, Then from above, a hollow drumming as though on the roof. The fog breathed in and out, thickening with each mile until even the engine's hum seemed swallowed by it. The children clung to their seats, afraid to speak, afraid to move. Frank drove slowly, eyes sharp, searching for any sign of escape. That was when he noticed the pattern. The knocks, once random, now came in rhythm. Penny, her voice trembling, whispered that it sounded like a code. Frank counted, piecing the message together. One word emerged, over and over, each knock spelling it out with dreadful insistence. Stop! Stop! Frank's foot hesitated on the pedal, and at the last instant he obeyed. The car shuddered to a halt, and there, just beyond the reach of the headlights, the road yawned into nothing. The earth had collapsed, a gaping washout filled with black water and jagged stone. Another few yards, and the Merryweathers would have plunged into ruin. The knocks ceased. For a moment, there was only silence. Then, as if satisfied, the fog parted to the right. A narrow track appeared, almost hidden, leading them away from the hollow. Frank guided the car carefully, the headlights catching only fleeting glimpses of pale trunks and twisted branches. Still the fog clung to them, unwilling to release its grip. More than once, Frank thought he saw figures moving at the edges of sight, shadows shifting, forms retreating into the mist. The children whimpered, and June prayed softly under her breath. But inch by inch, the road straightened, and at last the far-off hum of another automobile reached their ears. The sound was faint, but it was human, earthly, blessedly real. Gradually, the fog thinned. The pale walls melted into tatters, then ribbons, then nothing more than wisps trailing from the trees. The paved road emerged before them, solid and shining beneath the moon. Frank guided the car onto it with a trembling breath, and the family sat in stunned silence as the world returned to itself. At last, the familiar lights of their town appeared. Home was waiting, as it always had been. June hurried the children inside and warmed milk on the stove, stirring cocoa into steaming mugs. They sat together, their hands wrapped around the heat, the comfort of marshmallows bobbing at the surface. And yet none could forget the road, the fog, or the pale figure that had measured them in silence. They never called it the night they were lost. They called it the night the fog knocked. And every October, when mist curled low across the fields, the Merryweathers would fall silent for a moment, remembering. So, my friends, should you ever find yourself driving on a road that does not remember your name, with fog curling close and silence too deep to be natural, take care. Slow your pace. Listen well. For sometimes the night knocks not to harm you, but to keep you from stepping where the earth gives way. This has been your evening tale. Sleep well, if you can, and if you dream of pale figures in the fog, remember, they may not be there to haunt you. They may only be there to guide you safely home.